led a star-studded team of political leaders as he began his 4-day tour of the Ukambani region. The president said he will defeat any opposition candidate in 2027 presidential race. He also vowed to ensure that the Kamba region is part of the government in the next general election, adding that his goal is to ensure that every part of the country is not left behind as his administration works to transform Kenya. Now, the head of state, accompanied by his deputy, Professor Kithure Kindiki, also launched several ambitious development projects in the county, a move aimed at rallying support at a time when the region has embraced new camaraderie with impeached deputy president, that is, who also doubles up as DCP leader, that is Rigathi Gachagua.
Gibson Maweu Ngondu.
Mimi nataka niwaulize nyinyi watu wa Makueni, viongozi wenu, si ndio mnachagua MCA? Si ndio mnachagua mbunge na senator na governor? Si ndio mnachagua rais? Mtu anachaguliwa kwa ile kazi amefanya ama anachaguliwa kwa sura yake? Mtu anachaguliwa kwa sababu gani? Kwa sura ama kwa kazi? Kwa sura ama kwa kazi? Kwa fitina ama kwa kazi? Kwa chuki ama kwa kazi? Kwa ukabila ama kwa kazi? Si kila kiongozi anachaguliwa kwa kazi? Sasa kama mtu asubuhi ukabila, jioni chuki, jioni ingine shares, sijui, sijui. Hiyo watu tutawazamisha asubuhi ama tutawangojea? Asubuhi na nini? Asubuhi na nini? Asubuhi na nini? Si asubuhi na mapema? Ama mnasemaje ndugu zangu?
Vile tunaenda mbele, tunataka siasa ya Kenya ibadilike, tuchunge mambo ya maendeleo. Kila kiongozi ambaye anakuja kuongea hapa anasema ile kazi ambaye amefanyia wananchi. Na kwa hivyo wale wanashindana na sisi, mupunguze mambo ya ukabila na chuki na kisirani, tuongee mambo ya sera. Sisi tukiongea mambo ya stima na barabara na masoko, na nyinyi mkuje muongee sera yenu. Wacheni kuleta chuki, ukabila na kisirani kwa wananchi. Ama mnasemaje Kilome? Nyinyi muko kwa 2 term ama muko kwa kamria? Muko kwa 2 term. Hii ya William Ruto muko kwa 2 term. Ni 2 term, si 2 term.
Now let's talk matters education. Junior secondary school teachers in Kericho County are calling on the Teachers Service Commission, that is the TSC, to employ more than 20,000 junior secondary school teachers on permanent and pensionable terms. The teachers say many of them continue to work under uncertain conditions without job security or medical cover. They add that despite the government's recent rollout of a national medical cover for educators, most junior secondary teachers remain excluded because they are employed on contract terms. Kupet Kericho Executive Secretary Mary Rotich is now calling on the Teachers Service Commission to prioritize the absorption of all junior secondary school teachers to ensure fair treatment and improved working conditions.
Today we are here just to remind Teachers Service Commission that there are interns who are employed on internship, the science teachers, that are yet to receive any communication from the commission. Their term of service is coming to an end, and yet there is no one who has told them anything. We want to hear only one voice, and that voice is confirmation of the interns.
We want to ask the government to come clear and tell the Kenyan teachers that the Ministry of Education is saying there is no money, and the Ministry of Treasury is saying they will confirm us. Let them come out and tell us the truth, because we want confirmation now. Our business is confirmation.
Right, at the same time, junior secondary school teachers in Migori County are urging the government to employ them on permanent terms after the expiry of their current contracts. The teachers hired to implement the new competency-based curriculum, that is the CBC, warned that failure by the Teachers Service Commission to offer permanent employment could disrupt key STEM subjects including science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
As intern teachers, because we are very anxious, we are requesting the ministry and our commission, the TSC, to move with speed to confirm the intern teachers the 2025 intern teachers in Kenya.
Unapata mwalimu wa JSS hana raha, akikuja kwake hana pesa, akirudi kwa shule hakuna pesa. So walimu wanafunza tu ili hata time iende tu. But there's nothing motivating teachers, and I'm really pained.
We are gathered here today to demand that we must be confirmed. No confirmation, no science. Because we have been undergoing a lot of challenges. We have worked diligently. Our contract is coming to an end by 31st December. And therefore, we must make sure the government, in liaison with the ministry, must make sure that we intern teachers are confirmed.
We are not so happy with the ongoings. I'm calling upon the Treasury to allocate funds so that we can see the advert on confirmation of the 20,000 intern teachers as soon as...
All right, moving on, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is the EACC, has vowed to sustain its crackdown on corruption-involved units, including what it describes as budgeted corruption emanating from county assemblies. In a statement delivered on his behalf in Kisumu, EACC Chief Executive Officer Abdi Mohamud expressed concern over the growing involvement of members of county assemblies in tender issuances that violates the Conflict of Interest Act. The Commission has also urged recruitment agencies to verify academic certificates to prevent the loss of public funds through salaries paid to unqualified individuals.
Previous mass recruitments, the Commission has received reports of parents and the guardians resorting to fundraising, selling family land, and sometimes exhausting life savings in desperate attempts to secure admission for their children by bribing public officials. In this regard, the Commission reminds the public that bribery in police recruitment has the potential to undermine merit, competence and accountability, with consequences that extend beyond the individual recruit to the society that they eventually serve when they finally finish their training and are deployed in various functional areas to discharge police duties. For this reason, that the Commission urges the public to desist from any form of bribery in the upcoming recruitment process. Candidates should not offer any bribe, gift or other favors to influence that recruitment. And any suspected case of bribery in the recruitment process should be immediately reported to EACC or other relevant authorities. Big funds that have been paid under illegal contracts, including tenders that have been awarded to individuals and entities through fraud and a conflict of interest. Supportive jurisprudence emerging from our courts is that where a tender.
Now, members of the broad-based bridge have urged citizens to support President Ruto's efforts in a nationwide initiative aimed at uniting all Kenyans. During a press briefing in Donholm, the youth called on the ODM community to maintain unity until 2027, noting that this was the late Raila Odinga's wish. They also stressed the need for a more inclusive government that engages youth from all sectors and political affiliations, ensuring participation and development for everyone.
The Broad-Based Brigade, a national youth movement bringing together young leaders and professionals from across Kenya's political spectrum, issue this statement to affirm our collective commitment to inclusive governance, youth participation, and national unity. First of all, a new spirit of cooperation Kenya stands at a moment of political renewal. In the recent months, we have witnessed reconfiguration of political alliances and a growing spirit of cooperation between government and opposition forces. As a young people who believe in progress over partisanship, we welcome the shift to affirm our support for the broad-based government initiative seeks to unite leaders around shared goals, development, inclusion, and stability. Our vision and basis of support of broad-based believes in that engagement rather than endless confrontation is the most effective way of securing opportunities for the youth. We therefore support the ongoing collaboration between political leaders under the broad-based framework, recognizing it as platform for delivering tangible results in areas that matter most to our generation.
Na sisi pia kama vijana wa hii nchi tuliachwa kwa broad based na bosi yetu ambaye amepumzika, Raila Amolo Odinga, si ndio? Na sisi tunasema hivi, kwa sababu tunataka nchi iende mbele, tuko kwa broad base na tunaambia rais wetu na ile chama yetu ya ODM wameungana na rais wetu kutengeneza nchi.
Right, 27 minutes past the top of the hour. Due for a short breather here on Morning Live, but we'll be back in just a bit. Don't go too far. All right, welcome back to the program. This is Morning Live. My name is Martin Mashaira. Now, let's take a look on what's making headlines on the dailies today. And I'm having the Daily Nation newspaper this morning and the Standard newspaper dated today, the 13th day of November 2025. Now, let's kickstart with the Daily Nation and the top story on the Daily Nation. Story making headline, across this particular week. Of course, it's, matters to do with the activists, that is Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo, who were in the custody of the Ugandan government. Of course, the president of Uganda, that is Yoweri Museveni, said, they had this Kenyan activist infringe what he termed as a fridge. All right. Now, the headline is Our Torture Ordeal. And of course, what began as a brief cross-border visit to Kenyan, for Kenyan activist Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo turned into a brutal test of endurance that neither of them will ever forget. For 38 days, they were blindfolded, chained to chairs and beaten in dark and cold dungeons. Their mistake, traveling to Uganda to attend the manifesto launch of the country's opposition leader, that is Bobby Wine. Of course, that's a story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. Of course, there is a quote there of the president of Uganda, that is Museveni, says, "They have been with us. I have their names. They were working with Kyagulanyi's group. They are experts in chaos," right? Of course, Kyagulanyi is actually Bobby Wine, right? Of course, continues to say that Mr. Nicholas Oyo actually said, "We went to Uganda because we are East African community citizens. I keep asking myself what wrong we do by crossing the border." Those are the words of Nicholas Oyo, who was actually abducted, or rather detained, all right, in Uganda. Of course, what appeared actually initially as an abduction at a local petrol station in Uganda. Of course, you'll remember that, the Ugandan government denied having these two in their custody. But later on, months or rather weeks later, the president actually says, "We have them in our custody," after denying, having them. Quite unfortunate. That's a story on page 2 and 3 of the Daily Nation. Of course, moving on to other matters making headlines on the Daily Nation. 4 billion Kenya shillings debt threat to senior secondary school rollout. Now, printing firms have declined to produce grade 10 textbooks over a debt of 4 billion for grade 8 and 9 books they have supplied since 2022, a standoff that now threatens to derail the rollout of competency-based education, that is CBE. And all this is because the government still owes publishers 10 million Kenya shillings, rather 10 billion, I beg your pardon, for the school text. Now printers are demanding that publishers clear the outstanding bill before they can work on the next order. That's a story on page 4, matters education. And of course, moving on to security matters. Now, why Kanja wants order halting police hiring lifted. Now, the Inspector General of Police, that is Douglas Kanja, wants the High Court to urgently lift conservatory orders halting the planned recruitment of 10,000 police constables, citing a crucial shortage of officers and looming security threats ahead of the 2027 elections. Now, in his court filings, IG Kanja argues that the suspension of recruitment was granted based on what he termed as material non-disclosure by petitioner Eliud Matindi, who challenged the legality of the exercise. Now, the legal showdown stems from a November 10th, 2025 ruling by the High Court that suspend the recruitment process, which was actually, petitioned by Eliud Matindi, which was actually earlier this particular week, where the court halted, rather freezed the police recruitment for a while. That's the story on page 10 on the Daily Nation. And of course, teenager Kibet overjoyed over maiden call up to Stars squad. And of course, that matters. Sports and Adrian Kibet, 19-year-old, plays for Celta Vigo's reserve team in the Spanish Second Division League and is part of the Harambee Stars squad that will play Equatorial Guinea tomorrow and Senegal on November 18th in Antalya, that is in Turkey. That's our story on page 39 of the Daily Nation. Right now, that's what's up on the Daily Nation. Now let's take a look on the Standard newspaper. Take a look on what the Standard has to say in regards to the governance of this particular country. Now, top story on the Standard newspaper. Of course, there is a picture there of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, that is Musalia Mudavadi, who also doubles up as the CS for Foreign Affairs. Of course, Foreign Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi is facing mounting criticism for his muted response to the growing abuse of Kenyans in neighboring countries. Now, from the abduction of activists in Uganda to the brutal killing of a teacher in Tanzania, Kenyans abroad say their government has abandoned them. Instead of summoning diplomats or issuing firm protest, he is being accused of appeasing regional leaders. Mudavadi pales compared to the U.S. Marco Rubio or Russia's Sergei Lavrov, whose words are edicts. That's a story on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. And I don't know what's your take on this particular matter. Is it wrong, for activists, actually, this particular activist, that is Boyo and Njagi, actually on TV interview in a local TV station here in the country, actually said that they went there for business and of course to support Kyagulanyi, that is Bobby Wine, in his lounge in Uganda. And of course they were intercepted by what appeared to be security officers. If these two had contravened with the Uganda laws, they should be in custody, or rather they should appear in court, maybe either in Uganda or be brought back to Kenya to appear in court. But these two, it's open that they had no ambitions to disrupt chaos in Uganda. And one may wonder, what's actually the cause of them being detained in Ugandan custody. All right, tell us, what are your thoughts through SMS line to 3059. All right, now Mudavadi says, Martin Andati, that is a political analyst, says, and I quote, Mudavadi is a status quo person. He would not like to rattle Uganda and Tanzania because they are trading partners, yet the lives and property of Kenyans must take precedence over any other interest. All right, and Macharia Monene, history professor, says, and I quote, each country then has an obligation to ensure its citizens are free from harm. Failure to do that implies the country does not know what its interests that need protecting and advancing are. Now, Professor Gitile Naituli, that is a multimedia from the Multimedia University, says Mudavadi's performance has been very underwhelming. You cannot compare him with Ambassador Amina Mohammed. And of course, there are pictures there of Bob Njagi and Nicholas Oyo when they were actually released. All right, now on page 2, matters education, why teachers shift to SHA faces legal landmines. And of course, it has now emerged that teachers had a little to no say in the 21 billion deal that shifted their medical cover to the government-run Social Health Authority scheme. Now, insiders familiar with the matter revealed that the decision reached on Monday by the three main unions, the Kenya National Unions of Teachers, that is NAT, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, that is KUPPET, and the Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers, bypassed the key legal requirements such as competitive contracting and public participation before settling on that option. Instead, the new medical cover was effected through a presidential decree issued at State House following a meeting between teacher representatives and President William Ruto on September 13th. Of course, we remember that the teachers were under Minet's cover. Now, they actually did a press briefing earlier this week, and they said that the teachers' medical cover now have to shift from Minet to SHA, that is the newly Social Health Authority scheme. All right. Still on page 2, IG Kanja moves to court to lift orders halting police recruitment exercise. Of course, to the courts of justice, court orders Kakamega County to pay contractor 11 million Kenya shillings for decade-old project. All right, now that's what's up. Of course, still on matters, corridors of justice, woman sues Mary Stops, claims right violated during an abortion. That's on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. All right. Now that's what's up on what's making headlines on the front pages of our newspapers this particular morning as far as the governance of this particular country is concerned. All right, at that note, we take another short breather here on the program. But when we come back, we're going to dive on, the pressing issues that are facing our teenagers today. We're going to have a mentor who's actually have an experience in that particular field. You don't want to miss that particular conversation that's coming up to you after the break. Don't go too far.